guys, welcome back to my channel. It's Leah, and today I'm here to talk about boundaries. But before we even take it there, I know it's been a minute, but it's so hard to do stuff like this. It's so hard to do like social media and TikTok and YouTube and all that when nobody's really looking, you know what I mean? I'm just being honest. Like, it's so hard to keep it going because you feel like nobody's watching and it gets discouraging. But then I get inspired and I'm like, let me talk about this. I love talking to you guys anyway, whether there's 2 people watching or 4 people that have watched. My friends and I were talking about boundaries and how to set them, why they're important, how to implement them in your life, and the whole nine. Even talking to my younger sister about it, we realized, like, as we get older, that we actually didn't have boundaries growing up in our household, which is probably very common in Caribbean households. I can't speak for everybody, that's just my experience. But if you can relate, even if you're not of Caribbean descent, you can let me know in the comments on whether you grew up with boundaries or not. But first and foremost, we can talk about setting boundaries with your family. That one's like a hard one, or at least it was a hard one for me growing up, because first you have to recognize that you don't have any boundaries. Second, you have to implement them, which can be kind of awkward and kind of hard when it's your family members. I feel like a lot of times we feel like we're obligated to like be loyal to our family members or let things slide because we're related, and it actually does like a lot of damage. For example, my sister and I were talking about how growing up, my dad, I think I talked about this in a previous video before, but growing up, my dad wasn't very respectful of our boundaries, and I think it comes from having an old school mentality. He felt like you don't give your kids respect, like your kids just respect the parent and that's that. Like, you don't have to give your kids respect. So like, I had a great childhood, like a really good childhood, especially at the hands of my dad. But as we got older, we started to realize he had a temper, and when he was angry, the whole house had to know he was angry. And so he didn't know how to really regulate his emotions. So there were really no boundaries in the home when he was having a bad day. Like, he would have to come up in our room and yell, and he'll take it out on us. Or if we did something wrong, it was kind of like that tantrum, that anger that came out. He didn't respect us. Like, he knew I was really terrified of spiders. When I was younger, he put a spider in my room and I was so upset, and then he was getting mad at me because I was upset at him for doing that. So that's what I mean when I say, when it came to our space, our personal space, our mental space, stuff like that, he didn't respect it, and there was no boundaries there. So it's kind of like anything went, like he could do anything, and we would just have to deal with it because he's our dad. That's just like one example. Setting boundaries with your family members could look like, listen, I have my own life now, but out of my relationship. Or I have my own life now, you don't need to control my life. Which wasn't necessarily the case for me, but that's a big part of why you should set boundaries with your family members, because sometimes they feel like they're so close to you and they know you, and there's like a control issue. So I realized in my later years, like literally it took for me to get into my late 20s. I guess I'm in my late 20s now. But it took for me to realize that my dad's not really open to change. He's not really open to the way he made us feel. He's not really open to hearing that we felt like he went out of his way to make us feel uncomfortable. So like the communication is not really there. You don't really talk, and I feel like it's better that way. And a lot of the times this will happen when you do set boundaries. You might lose people because they might feel offended that you're not dealing with their shit anymore. I'm good with that because now I have a peace of mind. But I realize that when I do communicate with my dad, I don't have a peace of mind because he's not open to change. So make sure you set boundaries with your family members if it's affecting your everyday life, and that's how you need to set boundaries. Okay, next one is friendships. Setting boundaries in your friendships is so important. And I feel like social media has a big part in this. We follow our friends on social media, and that sometimes makes us feel like we have access to you more quickly, which is probably the most damaging, because sometimes when you want to just be by yourself, meditate, get some solitude, with social media it kind of goes out the door, because if somebody wants to talk to you, they're gonna hit you up, and sometimes they hit you up again and again and again. It's like, yo, I'm chilling. Like, just because I have a phone, just because I'm posting, doesn't mean that I want to talk right now. And I think that's okay. Our phones make us think that everybody's always on go. There's this one friend I had in the past, and she was asking me, I see that you're like online right now and you're posting, but you're not responding to my messages. And honestly, look, I get it. Like, it can be seen as rude, but it's not like we were linking up. It's not like we made plans to go anywhere that day. So it's like, listen, I'm gonna answer you when I'm answering you. Right now, I'm having me time, okay? And I am a bad texter, don't get me wrong, and I'm trying to get better at that, but I just feel like even if I wasn't, don't expect people to always have time for you, because the older we get, the more we have lives, our own lives, and we have things to do. There was this quote that I saw, and I saved it in my phone. I'm gonna post it here, but it was like, I love those type of friendships where you can just link up with each other and it's like no time has been missed. And sometimes that's just once in a while. Like, we don't always have to hit each other up and everything's blessed, you know what I'm saying? And another big thing with setting boundaries with your friends, it's important to make sure that you're respecting each other's journeys. We're all growing in different ways. It's not high school anymore where it's like we go to school, we have the same schedule. Because if you take it in, we kind of had the same schedule as teenagers. I'm just realizing that now. I feel like some people didn't really grow out of that. They didn't realize that, yo, we have different schedules now. We're going off into our own. Some of us are having children, some of us are not. So we're at different journeys right now. If somebody's priority is children, respect their journey. Don't feel left out, you know what I'm saying? If somebody's priority is making money, let them make money. But if somebody's journey is to work on their mental health and it's not necessarily grinding right now, respect their journey. If somebody lets you know where they're at in life, don't try to convince them to do something else, especially when they just express to you what path they're trying to take. Suggestions are always nice, but also respect their journey, especially if they notified you that this is what they're trying to do. And if it doesn't align with yours, then that's okay. It doesn't necessarily mean that it's right or wrong. Setting boundaries in your friendships is very important. All right, setting boundaries in relationships. This is a big one, like a big one. I think I'm gonna go into a more detailed video about relationship do's and don'ts. I feel like setting boundaries in relationships is kind of similar to setting boundaries with family. It's kind of hard. There's so many lines that get crossed, and sometimes we don't want to step on someone's toes. We don't want to hurt their feelings, and for some reason setting boundaries makes us feel like we're hurting someone's feelings, which is sad. It shouldn't be the case, but that's just like a natural human instinct. You don't want to make somebody feel uncomfortable, but it's like, in order to feel comfortable, you kind of have to make someone uncomfortable. Like, it's just something that you have to do if you want your sanity. Setting boundaries can apply to any type of relationship in your life. Financial boundaries, that's a conversation that needs to be had with you and your partner. How are you gonna spend money? How are you gonna delegate money? Not burdening somebody with your financial issues. Like, that's a huge boundary that I feel like gets crossed. Like, I think that's something that's very common in relationships. That's not really the responsibility of the other person. So when it comes to financial stuff, like, if you're having issues with that, make sure you deal with that. Make sure you're communicating that you're dealing with that, because it's really not for the other person to kind of take on. It can cause stress. You just never want to make somebody feel uncomfortable with your financial stress. Another good one is emotional boundaries. So it's like kind of learning how somebody communicates, especially when things get kind of uncomfortable. You want to make sure that you're not pressing an issue to kind of work it out when the person is not ready. So like, if a person needs time to process an argument, an issue, a problem, whatever, you should kind of learn your person, you know what I mean? So like, learn that if after an argument they don't want to talk it out right away, but you do, you kind of have to respect the fact that they need time, to process it, and vice versa. Learning how each person communicates is really helpful, because then you don't want to cross someone's boundary kind of make them feel like they have to do something that they're not really ready to do. Another big one that I find is the most important, it's almost as important as setting emotional boundaries, sexual boundaries. It goes hand in hand with consent and making sure that somebody is comfortable doing something, doing anything. So it has to be mutual. And I feel like a lot of the times, especially when we're younger, we've gotten into relationships with, as women, I'm just speaking as a woman, like I feel like as women we can get ourselves into relationships where we get involved with guys who we don't realize are actually very hypersexual. They kind of have issues regulating that. The older I get, the more I realize that, yeah, that's like a huge boundary cross, because there are times, even in relationships, where you can be with somebody who's pressuring you to do something that you really don't want to do. Like, you're not ready for that. And I feel like that happens in relationships every day. If you're not comfortable doing something, let it be known. There's no reason why your man or whatever, your girl, should be pressuring you to do something, anything sexual, if you're not with it. You know what I mean? So make sure that you let it be known. And if the person has a problem with it, that's how you know that you should not be in a relationship with that person. Sexual boundaries are very important. You should always feel comfortable, never forced to do anything that you don't want to do. And a big one, I feel like nobody really talks about this. I don't know why, but I feel like a big one is, I feel like there should be boundaries with your boyfriend's or your girlfriend's people. So like your boyfriend or your girlfriend's family, your boyfriend or your girlfriend's friends. There should be a boundary that never gets crossed. From experience, there's such thing as being too involved in your man or your girl's family members or their friends. I had a friend that, because we're all like mutual friends, they would always call me and let me know their problems, and it kind of was getting messy, because when everything's blessed with them, then they're turning on you, and you would want your man or your girl to stick up for you, but now they're torn between their friends or their family members. And I feel like the best way to avoid that is to just stay out of it. If you notice your man or your girl's family members kind of getting too close with you, getting into deep combos with you that maybe might not be your business, I would say stay as neutral as possible. Don't get involved. Don't get too close with them. You don't have to be rude, but you can just keep your distance. Stay out of it. Because if you get too into it and something pops off, you're going to expect your significant other to stick up for you. And if they don't, it's going to cause problems in your relationship. I had to learn that the hard way, but obviously, you know, we're young, whatever. We learn and we grow. And that's my best advice for setting boundaries in relationships, because you don't want to have problems in your relationship because you became too involved with their friends or their family members or whatever. So just keep it neutral, because at the end of the day, it's going to cause problems, because their family members or their friends, they're always going to be biased. They're always going to take that person's side, and then you're going to be looking stupid on the outside, getting involved as if you were gang. But in reality, you're not. You're cordial because that's your significant other's people, but at the end of the day, keep it neutral. But anyway, that's all I have for, oh, and lastly, the most important one, my bad, is actually setting boundaries with yourself. Implementing boundaries with others is literally setting boundaries for yourself. So respect yourself. Respect your time, respect your health, respect your mental health. Don't overwork yourself. Don't overwork yourself, because these companies don't care. You're very replaceable. You're just a number. Don't always say yes to every event, every person, every opportunity. Think things through. A big problem that I used to have was always saying yes and making commitments to things that I didn't really want to commit to, or I didn't even know if I wanted to commit to it yet. I wanted to think about it later, but I said yes right away. So if you want to be a happy person, if you want to be more of a stable person, say not right now. Well, that's my favorite thing right now. Not right now. Maybe next time. I'll think about it. I'll let you know. That's a big one. Make sure you set boundaries with yourself. Like, trust yourself to stop going on social media after a certain amount of time. Trust yourself to put your phone away. Trust yourself to commit to self-care, like a face mask every week. Whatever that looks like, set boundaries with yourself so that you can have energy for the people that you love. So that's all I have for boundaries. I'm going to be back with some more videos because I had to like kind of build up my confidence to do this again. But yeah, let me know in the comments how you guys set boundaries, if it's hard for you to set boundaries, why it's hard for you to set boundaries. And yeah, I'll catch up with you guys in the next video. Share this video with anyone and everyone, your baby mama, your cousin, your dog. Like, share, comment, subscribe, all that. Bye.